I started selling print on demand on Shopify just over 6 months ago. And sorry, my assistant manager right here has decided it's time for bath time. And since starting month over month, I have seen a general increase in the sales in my store. Of course, except for Q4, which had a major rise, which is just the nature of e-commerce. But since 2024, we have had a steady increase every single month due to a lot of online learning, paid Fiverr audits, and a lot of trial and error. So I'm going to share the top 5 lessons I had to learn the hard way that once I fixed them, made a massive difference in my store results. And these changes have brought my store from a 0% conversion rate to a 0.8% conversion rate, while now in the last 3 weeks, we are at a 2.7% conversion rate. For some reason on my Shopify analytics, my conversion rate displays wrong, but if you actually calculate it, it is 2.7 now. And if you check with other analytics, it's more correct. Someone let me know why Shopify analytics is horrible. But the first big mistake I made was bringing in PNG files for all of my photos. PNG files are much larger file sizes than JPEGs. And when your file sizes are massive, this also causes your store to slow down, lowering the site speed. So when someone actually comes into your store, it's just going to show as a white page, or your photos aren't going to load, which is just going to cause them to drop off and bounce off of your site. In my first few months, my load speed was horrible. It was giving me the red bar that said poor, and it was causing people to not interact with my site. And again, just leave my site really quickly before they could even start shopping. And it took me a while to figure out exactly what was causing this. But once I did, I realized that every file I was bringing in was massive because I was saving them as huge PNG files. So instead, I started saving them as JPEG files, and then I would also bring them over to tinyjpeg.com to make them even smaller file sizes, so this would load even faster. But there's also apps for Shopify that can do the same thing. I'm just testing out which one is the best one, and for the least possible money. I would ideally like this to be for free. Otherwise, I'll just continue using tinyjpeg because it's just one extra tiny step. The next massive mistake I made was optimizing everything for desktop. Because I was designing my site on Shopify on desktop, it was the version that I was seeing. And I just assumed majority of people when buying are going to be on desktop. But actually, when I started looking at my stats, 91% of my traffic is mobile. And so I switched to the mobile view on Shopify and realized my site was not optimized. It had some major spacing issues, some images not showing up. It just did not look great on mobile compared to desktop. But if that's where majority of my shoppers are, I need to instead be designing with mobile first in mind, and then I can worry about desktop. And since doing that, I have seen a massive rise in conversion rate. The next mistake I made was trying to run ads to my store without first learning about conversion rate. I created my store, I thought it looked fantastic, and I also had designs on there that I already knew were selling because I had an Etsy store. First, I was only putting my best selling designs in one niche on here. So I already knew that the designs created could sell. But I decided to go right over to running ads then. I had a good site, I had good products, but the problem is I did not learn first what causes people to trust a website. So I was doing like $100 in ads a day, driving it to my store with 0 conversion rate. So I decided to do my first Fiverr audit, which taught me everything I needed to learn about conversion rate and optimizing. Things like social proof, shipping transparency. I hadn't known which pages needed to be in place for someone to actually trust me. And by learning about CRO, I learned so much about building trust into buying from a website, because it can be so different than marketplaces, because online you don't know who's selling to you. You really want to build trust with someone because there's a lot of fake sites out there. So if you want to learn about CRO, I did do a whole video on everything I learned through doing 3 different CRO audits, and I put that all into one video, so you can go ahead and watch that. I'll link that one up next. The next ads mistake that I made was not running enough creative to really test. I created 1 carousel ad and 1 image ad, and I was running all of my ads towards these. Eventually, I learned that once you start adding more and more and more creative, you are increasing your chance at being found. I was testing different images. I threw in a different video. I did a few carousels with the different main photos. And by having a bunch of different ads, you are giving Facebook the opportunity to send traffic towards the ads that are actually working for you. So if you are using a Facebook campaign where you're allowing them to optimize your budget towards the right type of creative, you want to have different options for Facebook to test, and they can send the right creative to the right person. By only having one or two creatives in there that I thought were going to work, I was limiting my opportunities to finding a best-selling ad. I had heard carousel ads did well, so I was running the carousel ads, and since then I've added in a bunch of static ads as well, and one of them this week became my best converting ad, which was fantastic. Just a static image ad of a mock-up was the best one, and I would have never known had I not tested a whole bunch of different creative. I have heard it's recommended to test about 15 to 20 plus at a time. I'm at about 10 now because this week is when I started really building them up more, but I'm aiming for 20 by the end of next week. And the next massive mistake I made was not isolating changes to A/B test. And what I mean with this is I would go into my store, make a whole bunch of changes that I thought were going to help my store. And then the next day, the conversion rate would fall off. And I didn't know what caused it because I made so many different changes the day before. So now I'm trying to guess which thing threw it off and which thing hurt it. While some of that might have actually been good for my store, I didn't know what wasn't. And then I couldn't even remember all the changes that I made. So this is my example store where I've been just showing some tutorials on, haven't run anything towards it right now. But one thing I would recommend is before you make major changes is first duplicating your theme. So then you have a version before you made a bunch of changes. So I have this one here, and now I can make some changes. And if I realize my conversion rate has fallen off, I can just revert and set this one live again. And then I can also delete this one later. But then also to keep note of all the changes you made, say in a Notion board, Google Drive, somewhere you're gonna see it so you know all the changes you made. But to isolate A/B test, just make one big change at a time so that you can actually compare apples to apples. So if you're going to change a new header photo, don't also go change a bunch of other stuff on your store. Test out the main header photo first. Try switching it, have the duplicate. If it's doing better, keep that one. If it's not, revert back to the old theme. And now you've only changed one variable. So you know what thing either increased or decreased your conversion rate, which makes it so much more helpful. Trust me, I have pulled out my hair after making a whole bunch of changes because I hate just waiting and seeing data before doing things. I know that's bad. I just wanted to do everything in one day, so I changed so much, saw a major fall off, and then the rest of the week was trying to recoup from that fall off and try to find out exactly what I had done. So thank you guys so much for listening. I'm having so much fun sharing what I'm learning with Shopify as I learn myself. If you have any resources for me to check out, apps to check out, any recommendations or anything you want to see that I learn along the way, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week.